All right, let me ask you something. What if everything you see, hear, feel, and even think is actually a hallucination? Not the kind of hallucination that happens when you're dreaming or on drugs, but one that's happening every single second of your life. Crazy, right? But it's true. Your brain is creating your reality, moment by moment, and what you experience as the world is really just your brain's best guess of what's out there. By the end of this video, you'll question everything you thought you knew, not just about the world, but about yourself. Let's start with a simple fact: your brain is locked inside your skull. It's dark in there. No light gets in. No sound either. Your brain doesn't directly see, hear, or feel anything. Instead, it relies on streams of electrical signals sent by your senses. Your eyes send signals about light, your ears send signals about sound, your skin sends signals about touch, and so on. But here's the problem: the signals are incomplete, noisy, and often misleading. So your brain has to figure out what's really out there. It takes the raw data from your senses and combines it with what it already knows, its prior knowledge, its expectations, and makes its best guess. That's what you experience as reality.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine being blindfolded and trying to figure out what's around you just by touching things. You'd rely on your sense of touch, but you'd also rely on your memory to guess what you're touching. If something feels smooth and round, your brain might guess it's an apple. But if it feels smooth and flat, you might guess it's a plate. That's exactly what your brain is doing all the time. It's guessing what the world is like based on the signals it receives and what it already knows. Let me give you a concrete example. Have you ever seen one of those optical illusions where two squares look like they're different shades of gray, but they're actually the same? Your brain is tricked because it assumes there's a shadow in the image, and it adjusts what you see accordingly. Even when you know the two squares are the same color, you can't help but see them differently. That's because your brain isn't just passively receiving information from the world, it's actively interpreting it, filling in the gaps, and creating what you see. This process doesn't just apply to vision. It happens with all your senses. For example, have you ever misheard a word in a song and been convinced it was something else? That's your brain making a guess based on what it expects to hear. Or have you ever felt your phone vibrate in your pocket, only to realize it didn't? That's your brain predicting a sensation that didn't actually happen. These small mistakes are proof that your reality is a construction, a hallucination controlled by your brain. Now, here's where it gets even crazier. It's not just the outside world that your brain hallucinates. It's also you. Your sense of self, your identity, your body, your thoughts are all part of the same guessing game. Let's break this down. What does it mean to be you? Is it your body? Your memories? Your thoughts? Most of us don't really think about it. We just assume that I am me and move on. But your sense of self is just another construction of your brain. Think about your body. You feel like you're in control of it, right? But even that is just a guess. There's a famous experiment called the rubber hand illusion that proves this. In the experiment, a person's real hand is hidden from view, and a fake rubber hand is placed in front of them. Both the real hand and the fake hand are stroked with a brush at the same time. After a few minutes, the person starts to feel like the rubber hand is their real hand. Why? Because their brain combines what they see, the brush stroking the rubber hand, with what they feel, the sensation of being touched, and makes its best guess: this rubber hand must be mine. The brain has been tricked. If your brain can be fooled so easily about something as basic as your own body, what else might it be getting wrong? This is why people who lose a limb sometimes still feel pain in the missing limb. It's called a phantom limb. The brain is still guessing that the limb is there, even though it's not. Your experience of your body is just another controlled hallucination. But it doesn't stop there. Your brain also hallucinates your sense of being a continuous self. You feel like the same person you were yesterday, last year, even 10 years ago. But is that really true? Every cell in your body has changed. Your memories are constantly being rewritten. Even your personality evolves over time. So what's actually staying the same? The answer is nothing. Your brain is just creating the illusion of continuity because it helps you function. If you woke up every day as a blank slate, you wouldn't survive very long. So your brain stitches together a story of you to make sense of your life. But it's just a story. Here's another wild thing to think about. Your brain doesn't just guess what's out there in the world, it also guesses what's happening inside your body. Right now, your brain is predicting your heartbeat, your breathing, your blood sugar levels, and 100 other things. This process is called interoception, and it's critical for keeping you alive. If your brain predicts that something's wrong, like your heart is beating too fast, it sends signals to fix it. But just like with the outside world, these predictions can sometimes go wrong. That's why you might feel anxious for no reason, or why people with certain conditions feel pain even when there's no injury. The brain's predictions about the body are just as fallible as its predictions about the world. So what does all this mean for you? First, it means that your reality is not as solid as you think. It's a construction, a hallucination that your brain creates based on its best guesses. And second, it means that your sense of self is just another part of that hallucination. You are not as fixed or as unchanging as you might believe. This might sound unsettling, but it's actually liberating. If your reality and your self are constructions, that means they can be changed. You're not stuck with the way things are. You can shape your reality by changing the way your brain predicts the world and yourself. Here's a practical example. If you're someone who struggles with anxiety, it's often because your brain is over-predicting danger. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off every time you burn toast. But just like you can learn to ignore the smoke alarm when you know there's no fire, you can train your brain to predict less danger. Mindfulness, meditation, and therapy are all ways to help your brain make better predictions. Another example is how you see yourself. If you've always thought of yourself as shy, or not good enough, or unlovable, that's just a story your brain has been telling itself. It's not the truth. You can rewrite that story by giving your brain new evidence, by stepping out of your comfort zone, by practicing self-compassion, by surrounding yourself with people who see the best in you. Remember, your brain is always guessing. If you give it new data, it will make new guesses. So here's the big takeaway: your brain hallucinates your conscious reality, but that's not a bad thing. It's what keeps you alive, what makes life rich and meaningful. The key is to understand how it works so you can take control of the hallucination. Don't let your brain's guesses define you. Challenge them, question them, shape them, because at the end of the day, reality isn't something you see, it's something you create. Understanding that your brain hallucinates your conscious reality can change the way you live. It's not just about redefining how you see the world, it's about realizing that you have more power than you think to reshape how you experience life itself. Let's go deeper. If your brain is constantly guessing, constantly predicting, ask yourself, what kind of predictions is it making right now? Are they serving you, or are they holding you back? Maybe your brain is stuck in loops of fear, doubt, or negativity because it's been trained that way over time. The good news is, just as your brain can be tricked into thinking a rubber hand is real, it can also be retrained to create a different version of reality, a better, healthier one. Let's take a simple example: stress. Stress isn't just something that happens to you. It's a response your brain generates based on its predictions about the world. If your brain predicts that a situation is threatening, like a deadline at work, a difficult conversation, or even a social interaction, it triggers your body's fight or flight response. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breathing speeds up. But here's the thing: those reactions aren't happening to you. They're happening because of the story your brain is telling itself about the situation. What if you could change that story? Research shows that simply reframing how you think about stress can change how your body responds to it. Instead of seeing stress as harmful, something to avoid, you can train your brain to see it as helpful, as a sign that you're engaged, that you care, that you're growing. This simple shift in perspective can lower your stress hormones and improve your performance. Remember, your brain is always guessing, and its guesses are shaped by what you believe. Change the belief, and you change the guess. Change the guess, and you change your reality. Now let's talk about emotions. Emotions are another type of prediction your brain makes. They're not just reactions to what's happening, they're your brain's best guess about what's going on both inside and outside of you. For example, when you feel fear, your brain is predicting danger. When you feel joy, your brain is predicting safety and reward. But here's the catch: your brain doesn't always get it right. Sometimes it predicts fear when there's no real danger, or sadness when there's no real loss. These emotional errors can trap you in cycles of anxiety, depression, or even anger. The key to breaking these cycles is awareness. When you realize that your emotions are predictions, not facts, you can start to question them. Is this fear really about something dangerous, or is it just my brain overreacting? Is this sadness really about something I've lost, or is it my brain misinterpreting the situation? By challenging your brain's emotional predictions, you can start to rewrite them. This is the foundation of many therapeutic practices, like cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), which helps you rewire your brain's patterns of thought and emotion. But let's take this one step further. If your reality is a construction, then your relationships are part of that construction too. How you see other people, your friends, your family, even strangers, is shaped by your brain's predictions. If you've ever misjudged someone or felt misunderstood yourself, that's because your brain's guesses about other people aren't perfect. It's like a filter that colors how you interpret their actions, their words, even their facial expressions. The good news is, you can improve those predictions too. Studies show that practicing empathy, actively trying to see things from another person's perspective, can help your brain make better guesses about others. It's like giving your brain more data to work with, so it can create a more accurate version of reality. And when your predictions about others improve, your relationships improve. You become more compassionate, more understanding, and more connected. But here's the big question: if everything you experience is a construction, your reality, your emotions, your relationships, then what's real? What's underneath all those guesses and predictions? This is where things get existential. Some people argue that consciousness itself, the fact that you're aware, that you have a sense of I, is the only thing that's truly real. Everything else is just a story your brain is creating. Think about that for a second. If your consciousness is the only thing that's real, then everything else, your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, is just noise. It's not the truth. It's just a guess your brain is making. and guesses can be wrong. This realization can be incredibly freeing. It means you don't have to be a prisoner of your thoughts or your emotions. You can step back and see them for what they are: temporary, changeable, and ultimately not who you are. This brings us to one of the most powerful insights of all: you are not your brain's predictions. You are the awareness behind them. You are the conscious observer, the one who sees the guesses, the hallucinations, the stories, and has the power to change them. This is why practices like meditation and mindfulness are so transformative. They help you step out of the story your brain is telling and connect with the deeper part of yourself, the part that isn't bound by predictions, that isn't limited by your brain's hallucinations. So what do you do with this knowledge? First, start paying attention to the stories your brain is telling you. When you feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, ask yourself, is this the truth, or is this just my brain guessing? When you feel stuck or limited, ask yourself, is this really who I am, or is this just a story I've been telling myself? When you look at the world around you, ask yourself, is this reality, or is this just my brain's version of it? Second, start feeding your brain better data. If your brain's predictions are based on what it already knows, then exposing yourself to new experiences, new perspectives, and new ways of thinking can help it make better guesses. Read books, travel, meet people who challenge your assumptions. The more you expand your mind, the more your brain can expand your reality. Finally, remember that you have the power to shape your hallucination. Your brain is incredibly adaptable. It's always learning, always changing, always updating its predictions. This means you're not stuck with the reality you have now. You can create a new one that's more aligned with who you want to be and how you want to live. In the end, the fact that your brain hallucinates your conscious reality isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. It means that you're not just a passive observer of the world, you're an active creator of it. Your life isn't something that happens to you. It's something you're building, moment by moment, with every guess, every prediction, every choice. So the next time you look in the mirror, remember what you're seeing isn't the truth. It's your brain's best guess. And the best part is, you can always teach it to guess better. This realization opens up an entirely new way of living. If your brain is always guessing, then life becomes less about reacting to what happens to you and more about shaping what your brain predicts. You're not just a passenger in this experience, you're the one holding the wheel. But here's the thing, changing your brain's predictions isn't always easy. It takes time, effort, and the right tools. So let's explore how you can start reprogramming your brain to create a reality that works for you rather than against you. One of the most powerful tools you can use is awareness. Just becoming aware of your brain's guessing game can transform the way you experience the world. When you notice your brain making a prediction, whether it's about your surroundings, your emotions, or your sense of self, you can pause and ask, is this accurate? Is this helpful? For example, let's say you're walking into a social situation and your brain predicts, I'm going to embarrass myself. That prediction might trigger anxiety, which reinforces your brain's guess. But if you step back and challenge it, wait. What evidence do I have that this will happen? You can start to break the cycle. Awareness gives you the power to question your brain instead of blindly believing it. Another way to shift your brain's predictions is through repetition. Your brain learns by recognizing patterns. The more often it sees or experiences something, the more confident it becomes in predicting it. This is why habits are so powerful. They're like shortcuts your brain creates based on repeated experiences. If you want to change your reality, Start by creating new habits that align with the life you want to live. For instance, if your brain constantly predicts failure, start practicing small wins every day. Set achievable goals, follow through, and let your brain notice, hey, I succeeded over time. These small wins will update your brain's predictions, making success feel more natural than failure. But here's where it gets tricky. Sometimes your brain's predictions are so deeply ingrained that they feel impossible to change. This often happens with beliefs you've carried for years, beliefs about yourself, your relationships, or the world. Maybe you believe you're not good enough, or that people can't be trusted, or that life is just hard. These beliefs are like default settings in your brain, and they shape everything you experience. But here's the truth: even the deepest beliefs are just guesses your brain made at some point, based on the information it had at the time. And guesses can be updated. To change these core beliefs, you need to give your brain new experiences that challenge its old predictions. Let's say you've always believed you're not good enough. That belief probably started as a prediction based on something that happened in your past. Maybe you failed at something important, or someone close to you made you feel inadequate. Your brain took those experiences and guessed, this is who I am. But that guess isn't the truth, it's just a story. To rewrite it, you need to give your brain new data. Start by putting yourself in situations where you can prove to yourself that you are good enough. Take on challenges, celebrate your successes, and surround yourself with people who see your value. Over time, these new experiences will update your brain's predictions, and the old belief will lose its power. Another key to reshaping your reality is learning to embrace uncertainty. Remember, your brain is constantly guessing because it doesn't know for sure what's out there. But here's the thing: uncertainty isn't something to fear. It's actually the space where growth happens. When you step into the unknown, whether it's trying something new, meeting someone different, or facing a challenge you've been avoiding, you give your brain a chance to learn. You teach it that the world isn't as scary or limited as it might have predicted. And the more you embrace uncertainty, the more flexible and adaptable your brain becomes. This brings us to one of the most important lessons of all: you are not your brain's predictions. You are not your thoughts, your emotions, or even your sense of self. You are the conscious observer, the awareness behind it all. This awareness is what allows you to step back, question your reality, and create something new. It's what makes you human. And it's also what connects you to everyone else. Because here's the beautiful thing: if your reality is a construction, and my reality is a construction, then we're all living in our own unique hallucinations. But we're also sharing this experience together. We're co-creating a shared reality, one prediction at a time. This realization can change the way you relate to others. When you understand that everyone is living in their own version of reality, it becomes easier to empathize with them. Maybe someone seems rude or dismissive, but what if their brain is predicting danger or pain? Maybe someone is struggling to connect, but what if their brain is stuck in a loop of fear or insecurity? When you see others through this lens, you stop judging them based on their behavior and start understanding them based on their humanity. And that understanding can create deeper, more meaningful connections. But let's take this even further. If reality is a construction, then the limits you see in the world, whether they're personal, social, or even global, are not as fixed as they seem. They're predictions. And predictions can be changed. Think about the biggest challenges we face as a society: inequality, conflict, climate change. These problems exist because our collective brains are predicting a reality in which they're inevitable. But what if we challenge those predictions? What if we imagined a different reality, a reality where equality, peace, and sustainability are possible? And what if we started acting as if that reality were real? Remember, your brain doesn't just passively perceive the world, it actively creates it. The same is true for humanity as a whole. If enough of us start predicting a better world, we can begin to create it. So here's the ultimate takeaway: your brain hallucinates your conscious reality. But that's not a limitation, it's an opportunity. You have the power to shape your reality by changing the way your brain predicts the world and yourself. You can challenge your thoughts, rewrite your beliefs, and embrace the unknown. You can create a life that's not just a reflection of your past, but a vision of your future. And when you do that, you're not just changing your own reality, you're helping to shape our shared reality as well. The next time you look around, remember what you're seeing isn't the truth. It's your brain's best guess. And the best part is you can always teach it to guess better. So what will you choose to see? What will you choose to create? That's up to you. Because in the end, reality isn't something that happens to you, it's something you create, one prediction at a time.